thank you, thank you. Your love for me is frightening. Happy Wednesday, everyone. As you know, it's super cold in NYC. I'd say Governor Hochul's face is frozen, but that would be redundant. This Saturday night, Kamala Harris will receive an NAACP Image Award for helping out people of color. They claim she did that by not becoming president. DOJ has stopped $10 million in U.S. tax money from going to Africa to fund male circumcisions. Not surprisingly, angry Democrats are calling it a dick move. During a recent presser, President Trump started listing the most insane examples of government spending. The most egregious one, of course, was the 6 figures spent to have Jerry Nadler's pants let out. Still didn't work. The stains. Australian wildlife officials have decided to euthanize dozens of whales that were stranded on a beach. And today, in fact, they had the difficult task of informing the whales' next of kin. I just have a Google search alert for whale stories. Saves time. Team USA Hockey wants Trump to attend their rematch against Canada this Thursday night. Trump said, if we win, we get Canada. And if they win, it doesn't matter because they still have to live in Canada. Suckers. While presenting an award at the BAFTAs, which is in England, Star Wars actor Mark Hamill's pants dropped to his knees. It looked pretty innocent until this little guy popped his head up from behind the lectern. Kentucky Fried Chicken is moving their corporate headquarters to Texas. In a related story, guess who just bought a place in Dallas? And finally, in Louisiana, 2 men were arrested for trying to smuggle drugs into a prison by shooting him out of a cannon. Authorities got suspicious when, for once, their drugs didn't taste like because they put them in their ass, guys. All right. Why do I say that? Unnecessary. It's no great revelation that the Democrats are screwed. They're lost, broken, and desperate. And in some cases, they're even decomposing. And they've apparently decided that what they need is their very own Joe Rogan, since trying to censor and smear the actual Joe Rogan didn't work. So they're sending out the billionaire bat signal, assembling them to create their own version of the cue-balled commentator. According to Semaphore, reps from George Soros' group and execs from something called Crooked Media met at the offices of Steve Jobs' widow to strategize on how their media efforts failed them in 2024. They saw how wildly successful Trump was by going on Rogan, and they want to get some magic for themselves. But let me save them some time, Dems. It's not going to work. First, you used to have a Joe Rogan. It was called Joe Rogan. Yeah. So why bother to find a new one when you'll just drive that one away, too? You're only going to punish and cancel anyone who might be a free thinker and not toe your doctrinal line. Anyone who might not fit within the narrow parameters of acceptable conversation is screwed. And any podcast audience will call bull the moment the guests announce their pronouns. We, they, them ain't having it. So how can you say you want something when you know you will destroy it or at least handicap it with impossible requirements? I'd rather listen to Rashida Tlaib getting a bikini waxed. Do you not understand that's how you lost Rogan to begin with and millions of voters? Look, the right doesn't agree with Rogan on everything, but that's okay. We live with that, and so does he. The problem for today's lefty media landscape is that they can't, because their ideas don't stand up to the scrutiny of a 5-minute segment, let alone a 3-hour podcast. But as Dems are desperately trying to find their leader in new media, they still got old media. Hell, the Crones on 60 Minutes started their careers using carrier pigeons. And apparently one of their recently fired wants traditional media to get in line and boycott the Trump White House.
When you have the White House banning the AP from the Oval Office, banning the AP from Air Force One, I think the rest of the press corps needs to start giving some serious consideration to whether or not it's worth, sending everybody into the Oval Office, sending everybody on Air Force One, sending everybody into the briefing room.
Well, that's some scintillating stuff. Poor thing. I guess he wants every journalist to be unemployed like him. But boycotting Trump coverage means boycotting themselves. I get it, though. They'd love any excuse not to cover all of Trump's wins, because right now our media mavens have that feeling you get when you're watching a stock you own dropping by the hour, and you realize that your pump and dump scheme is going down like Don Lemon at his next job interview. He's a terrible job interviewer. I don't see the... Your scam is up, media, and trust me, the hits are going to keep coming. Which raises this question. If the Dems were so certain that Trump's policies would fail, wouldn't they just sit back and let him fail? Their panic means they either know or they fear he will succeed and prove them wrong. And with Trump doing so much so fast, leave it to the never-Trumpers to do what little they can to make a fast buck. An event called the Principles First Summit convenes this weekend in D.C. What are their principles? Well, judging by the lineup, cashing in on whatever's left of Trump envy. The biggest and most bitterest names in the anti-Trump world will be there. Adam Kinzinger, Michael Steele, Bill Kristol, and George Conway. All that was missing was Joy Behar and 16 green room coffee cakes. There are a few Dems to shore up the list of yesterday's pundits who've seen their audiences flee like Tim Waltz hearing a car backfire. So what you notice here is a sense of uselessness, a direction doomed to incompetence and frustration, but maybe a paycheck for the time being. These are the dinosaurs just after the big orange asteroid hit. But it's also about fear of change, a necessary part of life, which is why it's so weird to fear it. Everyone likes to be right, but that keeps us from seeing that we all share the possibility of changing when we ultimately aren't. The Never Trumper Conference meets under the title of Principles, but it's just a stubborn and sad refusal to look in the mirror, to admit that there is no way out as you continue down this narrow alley with no exit. It's no different than the left's search for a new Rogan. It's a dead end, one they chose because they were too scared to look at the signs staring them right in the face. Period. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He looks like the boy next door if you live next to the snack aisle. Comedian Joe Mackey. Her name is an herb and her points are superb. Host of the Sage Steele Show, Sage Steele. If he were any funnier, he'd be on a better show. Comedian Jeff Dye. And finally, she speaks very quickly and makes the libs feel sickly. Co-host of Outnumbered, Emily Campagno. Joe, I see you left your sport coat in the green room.
Well, Greg, I saw that Jeff was wearing his. I didn't want to show him up by being the hottest comic on the show.
You are. You're the second hottest comic on the show.
I'm a humble man.
Yes, you are. You know, the Dems are searching for their own Rogan. You're a very masculine man with some kind of transgender appearance. Wow. You seem like... Jesus. I mean... that was a compliment. I'm very, very pro-trans here. Would you take the job if the job even existed?
I don't think the job even exists, Greg, because, like, Democrats coming up with a Joe Rogan is like the Taliban coming up with a great stand-up comedian. It's just not a system where that's conducive to, because it's like the Taliban would be like, okay, go entertain us for an hour, but you can't make any jokes about having sex with goats. And they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? And the Democrats are like, okay, just be like Joe Rogan, except you can't have anyone who disagrees with you on, and you can't make fun of anything. Yeah. It's just not a system that's gonna work. I think what the media have become for the Democrats, it's kind of like when Superman lost his powers, and then he goes to fight that guy in the bar, and he gets beat up. And he just still thought he could do all that. He still thought he could beat up people in bars, and now he can't, and that was like the best part about being Superman, was beating up people at bars.
Yeah, I love how you go against character by talking about Superman as a nerd that you are. My God, help me. Sage, Joe does
I've never met him. This is a show.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Ooh, she's flirting with you, Joe. You might have a chance.
Don't get too close, baby. I'll break your heart.
Listen, don't put baby in the corner. I think that's what you just did.
Sage, you know, Joe makes a good point. How do you find somebody to fit the bill if the bill requires you not to be interesting?
You can't.
Yeah.
And don't we agree that they have tried and tried and tried on every single network and every single podcast platform, and they have failed. What they need to do, and I know that this is not going to happen, so it's almost rhetorical, but look yourselves in the mirror, understand how you failed, why you failed, and then come back at. Listen, you did it in 2016, you failed in 2016, and then you came back and cheated in 2020. It was perfect. Like, there are ways to work on this, but you got to look yourselves in the mirror, see what went wrong. And by the way, it makes me sick, actually, and even though I'm a right-wing nut job, the fact that you do that to Joe Rogan to the point where Joe Rogan says, I'm out, peace out. I was there in Pittsburgh the night before the election at the rally in Pittsburgh when Donald Trump stood on that stage and said, guess who just endorsed me? Joe Rogan. The crowd went nuts because when that happens, you know it's over.
Yeah, especially Joe Rogan was a Bernie bro. So, I mean, he goes from communist to owning 4 houses, just like Bernie. You know, you look in the mirror a lot, Jeff.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, do you have any tips to these guys in looking into the mirror and seeing what they truly are? Do you have advice for them?
I agree with her. They got to regroup.
Yeah.
They need to regroup. I'm a former liberal guy. I was very liberal, and they changed. The party left me. I didn't leave the party, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
You'd never leave a party.
I don't leave a party, that's right. No, but I think that the left has become like nerds, right? Like nerds are these big, fat guys that are chubby that read their comic books and they're like, oh, and they're heroes. No, go with me on this analogy. They'll read about a Captain America or like a Hulk or something, and they go, these are the heroes of the comic books. But they would hate that guy if they met him. You think that nerds would be jacked. They'd be in the gym trying to be like their heroes, but they're not. They like the idea of these heroes. Now you have a real-life Iron Man. You have Elon Musk. You have a Hulk, Joe Rogan. You have Captain America, Donald Trump. And then they hate the guys. They like the nerd. They only like the ideas of these things.
Who's Aquaman?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably Tulsi Gabbard. She's from Hawaii.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
But I guess the idea is that like they say they want these things and then they reject them. Liberals wouldn't shut up about electric cars, and then the one guy that made it a reality, they're like, well, but not when he does it. You're like, shut up.
Yeah, that would make me Ant-Man, I think.
Not to be a nerd, Greg, but Elon Musk would be a real-life Tony Stark. Check your facts.
In your face,
Yeah,
Jeff.
Tony Stark's Iron Man, nerd.
Fight, 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 fight. I was so good at that at high school, shouting fight, fight, fight.
And then running.
I also don't like that we put Acosta on here, that guy. Don't give him any screen time. That guy sucks.
Oh, yeah, he does. But he's kind of, it's like, I like having him around because I got tired of you making fun of Stelter. So now I got Acosta.
That's true. You know, he refused to use the term Gulf of America.
Really?
He still calls it the Gulf of Mexico, which I didn't know libs were into dead naming. You know what I mean? If I got to call her Caitlin, you call it Gulf of America.
There you go. Emily, last word to you.
Well, I recall how the left started using Joe Rogan as like a verb to describe his following, that it was a bro culture, right? And they used it to slander anyone who dared to support Trump, missing the entire point, which was that Joe Rogan the entire time had no agenda. He actually just had a subscription to curiosity. Every single person that would sit in the chair across from him, he just dared to ask questions to and listen, actually just listen. So the fact that he hosted free thinking is why the Dems canceled him and damned him and then dare to try to get him back. And I find it so ironic and hysterical, frankly, that now they're canceling the half of America that dares to care that our money has been going toward circumcisions and condoms and all these ridiculous things. Weren't they the ones that screamed that their pensions were going toward gun manufacturers? Weren't they the ones that screamed that, well, I'm not going to wear this shirt anymore if Nike makes it, right? So where is all of that value commitment that now when we dare to audit that they don't? And they say that President Trump is failing, that he has no principles. Principles first. What, the president that's trying to stop 2 wars? the one that actually values service members' life instead of deploying out of or leaving Afghanistan, killing 13 in the process and abandoning our allies. Like everything that Trump is doing and Elon Musk is executing is truly toward a better America, better values, learning where our money goes, and honoring free thought and free thinking. So the Dems trying to claw it back, it's too little and it's too late.
All right.
Remember when Trump went on Rogan's show, and it was like 1 million downloads every hour, and then what did they do? They suppressed it. They suppressed the show, and you couldn't go on YouTube and find it. So now what? Are you going to suppress the next person because you don't agree with it? So they want him, but do they really?
Well, they can't suppress me. I'm irresuppressible. All right, we got to move on. Up next, we make famous in ignoramus.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.